Well, pre-season's finished, but it's not really finished, is it? But it is finished, and it's 1 week to go until the start of the EFL Championship season 25-26. The football is back. Welcome to Blue Monday, an Ipswich Town podcast. Well, plenty to talk about, Joe, and plenty of things not happening to talk about as well. We will get into transfers that have or haven't happened and why they have or haven't happened. But we do have a friendly to talk about as well, at least, Joe.
Yeah, or as Mikel Arteta likes to call it, a test. He doesn't like the word friendly, so has
Why
banned
not?
it at Arsenal. He just likes to call them tests instead.
Now, this sounds very high performance. Ladies and gentlemen, huge welcome to George Solomon, who's going to be joining us here on the Flagship tonight and throughout the season. But we'll do more pluggery of that, George. Welcome to Team Blue Monday, mate.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Joe. How are you doing, boys?
We are all good, and we're about to talk about Auxerre 0, Ipswich Town 3. And I don't know, part of me always goes easy on friendlies after the Charlton debacle a few years ago and then winning the first 5 games after that. But much to read into this one. Joe, we can get into selections. We can get into people being not in the right mental state to travel maybe afterwards. But first feelings before we get into selection?
Well, it was another big test, wasn't it? I think we've had a pre-season that has been sort of a lot of travelling in there. The only home game has obviously been at Colchester against Charlton in the week. We've been in Auxerre for a game, up to Scotland for a Friday night game, which I imagine is some form of trying to have a game on a Friday night ahead of the opener against Birmingham on a Friday night, and then out to France against more good opposition yesterday, top tier French opposition. I think they finished 11th in Ligue 1 last year. So, yeah, another test. And this one felt, especially for the first half, a big sort of physical step up of what we'd seen at Aberdeen, Charlton and Blau-Weiss Linz.
What is the what's the schedule in France? I think they start a while after us, don't they? Is that right?
I think they're only a week behind us.
Oh, is it?
I think so, yeah.
George, so we got from Mr. McKenna, Palmer, Johnson, O'Shea, Greaves, Townsend. Mattersey were with Taylor, Clark, Smodix, Philogene, Hurst. Obviously, we'll get on to Knox for the entire left-hand side of that 11. But A, are you reading anything into that selection? And B, do you think it may be reasonably close Friday night?
Yeah, I think at this point you have to say it looks like the team that he will pick on Friday, particularly because it's pretty much the same team that played at Aberdeen, I think, more or less. So I think Johnson maybe is the standout there, the headline. Like, he seems to have right back sewn up at the moment. Clearly Young is slightly further behind him in his pre-season. But yeah, I mean, that looks like the 11 that he wants to go with. And the majority of them, injuries aside, played a good chunk of the game. I think the big bulk of changes came about 70 minutes, which looked to me to be a sign of like, yeah, this is my 11 and I'm going to give him a good run out today.
What's your take, Joe, on the selection?
Yeah, I guess, like George mentioned, yeah, for me, the question mark is at right back between Ashley Young and Ben Johnson, whether Ashley Young will be seen as ready by the time Friday comes around. And then Leif Davis wasn't there yesterday. And then it's injuries, effectively. Other than that, it's going to be the changes from there, how they look from there. I saw just a comment pop up about Jaden Philogene being out for the season. If we can just say that is not true. We don't know how long he's out for, but you don't get a heavy knock on your ankle on Saturday evening and be ruled out for the season on Sunday. It's just not how sport and physio and injuries work. You have to let the swelling come down, get a scan. If he's out for the season, which is very, very unlikely for an ankle injury, then it'll be a big blow. But we're not going to know anything about this for at least a week on it.
Yeah, we'll get into injury potential problems and whatnot. George, we were kind of watching the goals before, and I'm loath to. I don't want to downplay friendlies too much because I'm literally hosting a podcast talking about a friendly. But anything to say about the 3 goals? It was Hurst, a kind of straight ball over the top. Greaves from a set play, and Al Hamadi with the third.
Yeah, I mean, we had a chat before, didn't we, Ben? Just talking about the first goal, and I think a lot of people seem to pick up Taylor's ball as if it was a Pirlo-esque ping over the top and lovely stuff. But if you watch it, he gets a easy pass from Palmer, no pressure on him at all, strides out from the back, and there Auxerre on the halfway line, and he just sticks it over the top. So that wasn't that impressive to me.
You've been the pre-season Grinch here, George.
Yeah, maybe. Like the Auxerre guys, like no pressure on the ball and then ping over the top. And obviously Hurst, he looks brilliant in pre-season, and I think his movement off the shoulder has been excellent. So yeah, a lot of good, brilliant finish. But I don't think we're going to see some sort of Lee Evans-esque season from Jack Taylor based upon that one ball pinged over the top.
Hurst always seems to kind of look nice and sharp at the start of the season, doesn't he, Joe?
Yeah, and not last season. He got injured in pre-season, didn't he, last year? So it's one of those ones where if he can stay fit, he looks really, really sharp. You look at the pre-season now, played some really nice stuff throughout pre-season. So whilst this talk of transfers has sort of dominated the sort of narrative and discussions, played 4, won 4, scored 12, let in 3. George Hurst has scored 4 goals in those 4 games. Ali Al-Hamadi's scored 3 goals in those 4 games. And I know there's a lot of talk about Ali, and a lot of it comes from myself as well in here, about is he going to be good enough to be a backup striker here or third choice, what we're going to do. But he does seem to find a way to score goals. Even though he looks chaotic at times, he does seem to do it. And in our previous championship season, when he came into January, played sort of across 14 games, but only played 293 minutes, got 4 goals, so 1.23 goals per 90 at that level, XG of 1.89 per 90. So he does seem to find a way of getting chances, getting goals.
Sorry, that was in the championship, was it, Joe?
In the championship, when in our promotion season, yeah. So he's had...
Whilst we were scoring 96 points and bringing him on whilst chasing the game every time, though. That must pad the stats a little bit, Joe,
Yeah, it does. But if you think in pre-season, he's had 3 goals. There have been 3 excellent finishes. All three of them have been really, really good finishes. So I think maybe he's one that could surprise a few people this year, because I think it's going to be very difficult to get 2 strikers done from here, because we know how difficult that market is. That he might be one that we need to rely on. Yeah, he might be one we need to rely on a little bit more than we'd have potentially liked to in an ideal scenario. But I think he's done all he could across the pre-season. And even like Jack Taylor, I know the goalie yesterday and the pressure he's under yesterday, but I think probably those 2 are probably the big winners of pre-season for how they've actually done when they've had opportunities. And they might have been 2 people who's might have been sort of looking one foot out the door almost, and they've sort of come in and done really well.
Yeah, on Taylor, sorry, Ben, I think like the assist was whatever, but he looked very sharp, and his pressing I thought was markedly different, and maybe they've made a real conscious effort to get him bedded into that position this year, which I think a lot of people still think he can't play the 6, but I'm sure that's all coachable, and he looks, he's had a great preseason, and maybe that's one of those where there's a lot of noise outside the club and we all make our minds up on players, but internally, there's been no talk about him leaving, and perhaps it's just like, he thinks he's going to start on Friday and he'll keep that shirt.
Yeah, and
you got to take on that, Joe.
Yeah, there does seem to have been a slight rejig in the midfield, where before there were sort of 2 deeper pivots, where now, since we saw Matasiwa, who again thought was excellent, really physical, getting about the pitch, he seems to be more central, playing across the pitch. And we saw this change with like Leif Davis playing as an inverted sort of number 10 at certain points against Aberdeen. And it does seem that there is a slight different change, that the midfielder playing alongside Matasiwa is more attacking, more of a 8 than we've seen in any of our systems. And when you look at the guys to be linked with, sort of Jens Kjærst, Hayden Hackney, all these names seem to be players that aren't really one for defensive responsibility. So it does feel like we're having a rejig, and it might finally, 2 years after signing him, actually playing to Jack Taylor's hands a little bit more, because the systems never really seem to have suited him up till now. But it does seem like what we're doing at the moment is helping him rather than hindering him.
Anything to learn on the middle goal, George? I mean, an Ashley Young assist, but I suppose more broadly, it is a big season for Greaves now, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, always nice to see centre half get on the score sheet. I'm sure he'll be happy with that. But I guess the main takeaway from there is it was nice to see Clark beat his man on the halfway line and drive and then just to see Ipswich Town ball go into the box and get headed into the back of the net is a bit of a novelty at this point.
Just winning the header, mate. Don't worry about it going in the goal. We won the first contact. Happy days.
But yeah, I mean, I, in a broader sense, watching it, it was like, wow, it's 2-0 against a Ligue 1 side. We haven't really got out of second gear, and we're going in at half time 2-0 up, and just, yeah, I mean, we spoke a lot about transfers recently, and it's all the talk. But really, if you look at, like Joe said, you look at pre-season, I don't think the squad and the team could have done much more to give us confidence going into that first game. So, yeah, it's 2-0 up at half time and in cruise mode.
Anything on? I mean, you've spoken about Al Hamadi took the goal really nicely, Joe. Didn't you mention those stats? Any final sort of take homes on this friendly, really, and the kind of group of them overall?
I think the one thing you've really noticed in pre-season is that Darragh O'Shea and Jacob Greaves look just like absolute Rolls Royces at the moment. They've got that size, power, pace, that you're almost leaving them just to defend as a pair at the back there, and they're doing it all. And I think just the difference between the Premier League and any other league in the world, that physicality, these guys are people who would be monsters in sort of any other league in the world. But because we've seen them in the Premier League sort of up against what you're up against in that level, you forget how good they are. And that might be part of the reason why the system's changed, because we can just take more risks at the back and just stick them one-on-one, knowing that they are going to be able to defend one-on-one against nearly everyone we play against. So I think those two, if we can keep those fit throughout the season, they're going to form a sort of almost like impenetrable partnership at the back there.
Yeah. Final friendly takeaways from you, George?
Yeah, I guess the one person we haven't spoke about in that sum up is Schmodix, and I think he's maybe not had the brightest of pre-seasons, and in light of the system changes, he seems to have settled into that central 10, and I think he started there every game more or less. So clearly they're trying to make that work. I've never been a huge fan of it because he's such a different profile of player to Chaplin and Amari, and maybe McKenna said we need a second striker basically, and he can go and do it. But I do wonder if it perhaps gives the chance to play a 3 in midfield if we ever want to, and we've got 2 very attacking wingers, 2 flying fullbacks, and we could potentially drop that central 10 out of the picture if we ever need to at certain games. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say he's kind of grabbed the shirt in pre-season and made it his.
It really looked like he was going to in that first one, that Blau-Weiss-Linz-Gap. I thought him and Hurst had a really good partnership there. I think he set him up for the goal. But yeah, for the Aberdeen and the friendly yesterday, didn't really sort of get around and get the chance in the box, because you expect him to be a bit of a shot monster. A lot of things fall to him. He gets a lot of shots off. But really, his game at Blackburn was getting in behind one-on-one. I think something like half his goals in that season were getting onto flick-ons, getting in behind. And the way teams are going to play against us probably doesn't lend itself to that, so he might get stuck back on that left, which I know he said he doesn't enjoy, but I thought he put in really good performances there in the Premier League and picked up 4 goals from that side, which in not a huge amount of minutes, I guess only Lindelat would have had a better goal rate than him in the league last year. But yeah, there does still feel like there's questions across that 3 behind the striker. Like Jack Clark's played out on the right, but he doesn't seem overly comfortable there. But
well, the left might be about to open up, Joe.
Yeah, but then who goes on the right as well? Because we haven't really got anyone for that side, with Ogbene still sort of finds his way back to fitness. So that 3 behind the striker, I know there's one big elephant in the room here, which we'll get onto, but without that, it still feels a little bit up in the air, and it still feels like we might need to let one go to bring one in, or let a couple go to bring a couple in, just to rejig the balance around for that there.
I'm assuming the elephant in the room Joe Fairs is talking about is a back-flipping ex-Arsenal and Chelsea player who we're going to hear all about after this message from our show partners over at Atwells.
Blue Monday is brought to you in partnership with Atwells Solicitors, your ideal legal partner for property and business law. Whether you're buying a home, starting a business, or just need legal guidance, our dedicated team has got you covered. Trust our award-winning customer service team to handle your legal matters with care and expertise. Find out more at atwells.com or visit us at our offices in Ipswich, Colchester, London, and our new location in Woodbridge.
I'm going to talk about Mr. Amari Hutchinson in just a minute. We have a big rule on the podcast here, is let's not make the podcast about the podcast. Let's talk about the football. But we do need to say we are hugely excited and hugely proud to be launching Blue Monday Top Tier this season. So this is our new YouTube membership, which is going to give you, on average, we hope, daily Ipswich Town content. So fear not, our free-to-air content that you've always been getting over the years, the pre-match, the flagship, and we're going to put Joe and Craig's news show in that bracket, will all be available for free and live on YouTube each and every week. But, and you'll see the reason why George may be appearing here tonight, we're going to be putting Blue Monday Rewind for selected games in the Championship. There's going to be a preview with George and another new recruit, Henry, coming. We've got blogs coming in, written blogs from Kev and Jack and Sean, some of our Telegram members. And for you real nerdy super data heads, Oscar and Adam are going to be with you on Monday doing a more kind of data-led look at the weekend's game. Joe, I'm really pleased we managed to get this done. You were sort of pushing for this a couple of years ago, weren't you, to try and get, some short form daily stuff, but it's going to be bloody hard work, but we're really excited to do it, right?
Yeah, I'm just waiting for it to go to like Sky Sports News 24/7 Ipswich Town coverage. So that'd be the next step. But no, really good, and looking forward to sort of doing the news show as well. And hopefully people will see that they're getting more for free as it is, and anything else is on top of that. So the content will not slow down even on this side of it, but get behind the paywall for all the content, because you know how good it is from us guys.
And George, you and Henry are going to be here on Fridays, kind of piggybacking off what Rich and Seb do on Thursdays with, some kind of predictions side to the sort of preview show. What you got coming up for us on a very big first weekend that we'll get to in a bit?
Yeah, we'll be doing a deep dive into the town team, predicting the game. We'll pick out a few of the key games in the Championship each week and have a bit of a running competition between ourselves there. And also for away games, we'll be doing a bit of a sort of mini travel guide as such, more of a Blue Monday spin on it, perhaps, than a bit of fun there. So yeah, I can't wait to get going. Henry and I did a little pilot show for the Auxerre game, which was good fun. We actually checked out some Auxerre hotspots just as a test run and found that there was a place near the stadium called Le Pub, which would have been good fun. But yeah, no, cannot wait, and super excited to join the team.
That was very footballery. That was nearly buzzing to get started then, wasn't it?
Yeah. Can't wait to get going.
In the footballers' tents as well.
Yeah, so that's the last we'll say for this gratuitous pluggery. What you need to do, and there's plenty of you I can see watching us on YouTube right now, if you click down there, it'll be there right now. You can join up as a member. Don't worry, that doesn't interfere on anybody's Telegram membership that they've got already. And as Joe and I have been very keen to point out already, your free stuff that you've always got will still be there, and it will still be free. So no obligation. You'll still get all of that stuff. But we love to get you involved on a daily basis on all things Ipswich Town. Right, Joe, can you translate this for me? Amari, with the speculation around his future at the moment, he didn't feel mentally in the right place to come for the game. What does that mean, Joe?
It means that this is how Mark Ashton, Kieran McKenna and Ipswich Town have decided is the best way to try and either extract the maximum value of a transfer fee for Amari Hutchinson or to try and keep him happy and in the fold. So I know there'll be a lot of people who will be pretty upset with this and thinking that basically the players refusing to travel and sort of putting his parts on and saying he won't travel. But this will be a decision that the club have sort of come to with him to make sure that we're not jeopardising our financial interest in him or the potential that he does stay with us longer term. So it's not a brilliant situation to be in, but it's a situation that goes on every year at every club. Sometimes you hear about them, sometimes you don't. Sometimes we're at one end of the scale. So like last year, like Sam Smollett's refusing to train for Blackburn, sort of turn up for pre-season, and not playing any of the games, training himself on there, but he was doing that to try and force her move to Ipswich, which he did. But these things, they sometimes
To be fair, he did come on as sub twice.
Yeah, but they sometimes go one way and sometimes go the other way. It's really difficult to know. But the club will be doing what they think is the best way to look after our own interest. Like I say, either in keeping him or extracting the best value for him. I say we all want him to stay. We'd all rather him be there, flying down there, playing the game on Friday night at Birmingham, starting for us. But it's a really, really difficult situation in the year. But like I say, you look at someone like Leeds, like Willie Nonto, he was almost on strike at one point and then is now signing a new contract as a Premier League player for them. So the club's, he is under contract here. He's got 4 years left on his deal. If we really want to dig our heels in, he'll have to stay. But you can't sometimes force people to stay because you don't want to then get yourself a bad rep with regards to how players are treated when they want to leave, if they've earned a move and bits like that. So it's really, really difficult. But I say you just got to trust the powers that be at Ipswich to get it right and get what we need done.
I'm struggling, George, with trying to read into this. I mean, I do think Joe's probably right that, you know, that's a way of comfortably wording, this is what we've decided to do, and we'll see how the phone calls are going in the next few days. I'm struggling to work out whether that means he's more or likely to play, because there's so many scenarios here. Like we were pointing out about, say, Smodics last year. He could play. I remember Ward Prowse starting a game for Southampton in this situation and then leaving, or Smodics coming off the bench. He could do that. He could. I quite like what Norwich did with Buendia, where they were like, shut up, get back in here, you're playing. You can go at the end of the season. But yeah, maybe that was in a depressed COVID market where they had a bit more leverage in terms of being able to hold on to him. But does this change your view on what's happened or what's about to happen? And do you agree with kind of Joe's take that it's a bit of messaging, really?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think if you think back to what McKenna said when he was first asked about Amari a couple of weeks ago, and his quotes around, we have a great relationship. We talk all the time. It's about what's best for Ipswich and for him and for me and that kind of stuff. I kind of read it as a little bit quite sort of honest from McKenna. And I can envisage the two of them having a conversation and almost McKenna saying, look, I don't think you should come to Auxerre. It's probably better that you stay here and train. And I wonder if it could be that. But I also can kind of definitely see Joe's point. So yeah, interesting. I have thought all summer that he won't be here come the end of the window. So, you know, I'm not kind of getting my knickers too in a twist, but it is also starting to impact our business from here, isn't it? Do we keep him? Does then Broadhead go? And there's so many moving parts. So you would hope it concludes quickly for all parties. And also we've had this guy at the club for 2 seasons, and he's one of my favorite players to have watched over the last few years. And I hope that this kind of period now doesn't sour it, because things aren't black and white in football anymore. And, you know, some of the things you see thrown about him are just way over the top, in my opinion. So, yeah, hopefully there's a solution quickly. And I would be amazed if he doesn't end up going, hey?
What's gonna happen, Joe? What's your read?
I don't know, but I think Skip's point that you just put up on the screen there is sort of very pertinent as well. If Philogene injury is serious, we've got seemingly an offer on the table for Nathan Broadhead from Wrexham. There's this potential Brentford interest in Murray Hudson. And when you say interest, they got up to 35 million quid sort of 10 days ago. And there doesn't seem to be a huge amount since then. But
Joe, is that clause off the table now? Is
that clause
relevant?
Is off the table? Yeah, that clause is off the table now. But still, you think if they got there, if we're saying we want 40, it's not a million miles away from 35 to get to 40, is it? So when you see like they're about to lose, sounds like Wissa could be going there, Mbuemo's gone, the manager's gone, Norgard's gone, that it might be a case that they need to make a bit of a statement somewhere. But I say you've got Burns who's out, you've got Ogbene who's sort of feeling his way back to fitness, you've got Philogene who potentially could be out, you've got Amari whose future is up in the air, Broadhead whose future is up in the air. That's 5 players out of that 8 that you've got behind the striker with doubts over them at the moment. So I sort of was put my notes together for where we are, sort of transfer wise, and I think we sort of need to probably be like 1 in, 1 out, and that's in that position at the moment. But you might even need to be, we need 1 and then be 1 in, 1 out from that stage on there. So I think there's a lot of things still that need to happen and are going to happen. So I hope if Amari is still here on Friday that he plays, because I think he's our best player. So you want to get him on the pitch, and it's not exactly unprecedented for players to play unless something is really, really close. But it doesn't seem that anything is particularly close. Like I say, we might wake up tomorrow morning and get a here we go from Fabrizio Romano. We don't know on that stage, but it doesn't seem like there's been anything really changed since the deadline expired. So you'd hope that if he is still here, unless something does move on a lot this week, that he'll be in the squad on Friday and playing a part of St Andrews, or the whatever it's called now.
Knighthead Park, Tom Brady International, Wayne Rooney Work Ethic Stadium at Knighthead Park.
At 20 million a year sponsorship.
Let's stop it, allegedly. George, I think I agree with all Joe said, and he said nothing's changed. The only thing that's changed now is the next game is a competitive game. And I think when you do get to this point of, look, the Premier League start a week back from us. We've got this ridiculous thing with the transfer window overlapping the start of the season. We know, being a year one parachute team, our trading scans more with Premier League dates and schedules of transfers than it does with EFL. And I mentioned Ward-Prowse. Joe's mentioned about sort of Nonto and Sinistera, wasn't it, for Leeds. I think the conversation is far more before Birmingham. Mate, you're under contract. Nothing's happening. You're off to Birmingham. That's how I read it happening. That's not to say I think he'll stay if he starts or comes off the bench against Birmingham. But I think going into competitive games is far easier to be. And I'm not mocking any, because it does use the word mental. Obviously, it's not easy to pass. You're not mentally in the right place when it's a competitive game and you're under contract, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would be surprised if he didn't feature in some way. I can't see him starting, to be honest, but certainly seeing coming off the bench, Alas Modix last year in the same situation.
Scored.
Yeah, and was very good, wasn't he?
Yeah.
But is it the risk the club will take? I mean, I think in the midst of all of this, it's like they're going to pay us 40 million quid for one of our players. That is just unheard of for Ipswich Town at the last few years. And although we seemingly don't need the money, do need the money, Joe, you might have better insight on that. But can we take the gamble of, Amari having a Philogene incident at the weekend and potentially then not going anywhere? I don't know.
But I guess the only... What sort of injury is going to stop a move, if that makes sense? Is it you've sort of torn a muscle, you've got to be out for 6 weeks? Well, if he's out for 6 weeks and we don't sell him, I'd be delighted with that, because it means in 6 weeks' time we've got the best player in the Championship coming back into the squad.
But we hope Philogene's not out for 6 weeks, of course.
Yeah. But if he's going to have a season-ending injury, well, that's just bad luck, isn't it? I don't think you can not put a footballer on the pitch because you think they might end up with a season-ending injury because of it. And because if that happens, then that happens, and you're stuck with him effectively. But then even if that happens, if we get promoted, then you've got him coming back at the end of it. So I don't think there's any real risk on that side of it for us. It's just how it goes on his side, and between him and McKenna, what they effectively, between the club, McKenna and Amari Hudson, agree is best for the club in my view. I don't obviously I care about Amari Hutchinson in some respects, but I care more about Ipswich Town, and then it's up to McKenna and Ashton to work out what is best for the club to do. And hopefully that'll see him sort of wearing that number 20 shirt on Friday night and causing havoc.
Right, I'm going to make a statement, and unless either of you disagree with it, we're ending the segment about Hutchinson. This is going to rumble all the way until the end of August.
Yep.
And nobody is disagreeing with me, so we're going to move on from.
Well, the only way it doesn't is if he gets sold in the next week. That's the only thing that stops the rumbling, is if something definitive happens.
He's not going to get sold
either in new contract.
When do you have to name your squad? Well, I assume for a Friday night game, travel is going to be happening on Thursday, and if if it's not announced on Monday morning, then it's going to the end of August. I'm in my humble opinion, I have no ITK credentials on that whatsoever. I do have credentials, George, to talk about Nathan Broadhead, the best player of this 2-year double promotion run. But it's gone quiet. I don't know whether there's just a deal ready to be done. And as Joe said, you're playing housing chains and dominoes and whatnot. But yeah, what's your take on a £7.5 million deal for Broadhead, who, as much as I absolutely love, that does sound like a good deal?
It does, doesn't it? It comes into question of like, how much do we as fans really have to worry about finances and accounting? But if we do have to worry about that stuff, then you have to say that's too good a deal to turn down. But it does feel like it's one where the club seem to have all the power here, and it just feels different to Amari. But you could say the same thing. I mean, if we want to keep Broadhead, we'll keep him and we'll play him, and that's that. And the club deem that losing £7.5 million, but getting promoted is well worth it. So yeah, I mean, seemingly until things become concrete, he's not going anywhere. But to turn that down does feel slightly painful, to be honest.
Yeah. Just quickly on this, if you do sign up for Blue Monday Top Tier, we get a lovely notification and we say, "Well, welcome William to Blue Monday Top Tier." So do get signing up to our new 7-day-a-week paywalled subscription side. Joe, on Broadhead?
Yeah, it's similar to George, really, in that regard. And also, when I was speaking earlier, I was talking about trying to have a little rejig between the guys behind the striker, because you effectively have got Philogene, Jack Clark, Nathan Broadhead, Sammy Smodix, who all can play off the left in 3 of their positions. Obviously, Philogene, Clark, and Broadhead. That's where they want to be playing. So it does feel, if you can get £7.5 million for a guy in the last year of his contract and get somebody in with a slightly different profile, maybe somebody that can play on the right, can play on the 10 a bit more, someone with a left foot, then I'd do it personally. I've loved watching Nathan Broadhead over the last sort of 3 years, but it does feel like he's been sort of on the way out the door since the start of last season, and we're now here with a year left in his contract and good money sitting on the table. A really good move for him going back to his sort of where he's from, sort of up in North Wales, and a really exciting project at Wrexham.
It's just waiting for other things to be ticked off, surely, isn't it, Joe?
It feels like it, yeah.
Yeah. Right, let's move on to, I've got a well-worn topic and a very, very well-worn topic. Where are we, Joe, with Hayden Hackney?
It feels like we're nowhere with him at the moment, in that he sort of, by all accounts, was down here on Thursday. I think people were tracking the private jet flying in from Teesside Airport, or Tees Airport. And
Jet Nonsing, as it's known.
I don't think it's been... I think it's been reported by EADT and TWT that he was thought to have been here Thursday. And I think the Middlesbrough local press have said that. So he's been down here. He's had the red carpet rolled out for him. He's had Kieran McKenna, Mark Ashton, everyone giving him our pitch to see what he can do. And on Saturday, it sort of came out about 2:00 that he's turned down the approach from Ipswich and will remain a Middlesbrough player for now. I think it's probably hurt Middlesbrough because they need to move on with their business. So just as a point to Ipswich fans, when we're talking about the squad's not quite where we want it, we need a few more transfers, you've got a club here who probably back themselves to be a top 6 contender, who are literally just waiting for their best player to leave so they can make some signings to reshape the squad for their new manager. And if he doesn't leave or leaves late in the window, they're going to be stuck sort of trying to spin plates, but without anywhere to land. So this is the sort of team we're up against in the Championship, but it's a real big blow because he's a fantastic player. And ultimately, when you spend this amount of time trying to sign someone and this amount of effort and it doesn't come off, it's sort of wasted time that could have been spent elsewhere. But you can't just not go for who you want to because you think they might not sign. Does it get revisited later in the window? Potentially. I think maybe we go back in later in the window if there is no Premier League interest for him. But we'll see how that goes. But I think if you're looking at the sort of percentage chance of him being a Ipswich Town player by the end of the window, it's probably dropped from about 80 to about 20 at the moment.
There's a point, George, where on a deal, you just have to kind of, cut your losses and say, if this isn't happening now, you've got to just go and look elsewhere, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite jarring, isn't it? You know, club have agreed, personal terms apparently agreed, down he comes, and you sort of myself thought like this surely will happen now. And for him to kind of go back to Middlesbrough and then it come out that he's not coming, feels like a long way back from there. And he'll have to, you know, if it does end up happening and this Premier League interest doesn't materialise and Borough are like, mate, you need to go. He's going to have a little bit of work to do with Town fans, I think. So, yeah, I mean, it depends, I guess, who we go and get, who we fill in the gaps with. But if we still have that big central midfield hole, then I wouldn't be surprised if they revisit it. But yeah, he's going to have some work to do to get a few fans back on board.
But I can see why he is turning down the move when you think that obviously Ipswich is desperate for him, Middlesbrough are desperate for him to go. But if he sees himself as a Premier League player, if he makes this step to Ipswich, he sort of almost prices himself out of that move. And his best case scenario is going up with Ipswich to be a Premier League player next year, playing for what is likely going to be one of the 3 worst teams in the Premier League. Where if he just sits it out at Borough, has another good year, then he might get a better move because he'll be a better price to go. So I think all he's really giving up himself is however long he stays at Middlesbrough opposed to leaving that time on a better wage at Ipswich. And it will be a lot better wage at Ipswich, but it's just, you can see what more can he do in the Championship to, what better numbers can he have in the Championship that he's had last year to show for himself. So I can see why it's happening. It was always a very, very ambitious one, but I say it's just a big blow and be interested to see where he does end up.
But the problem, George, the problem I've got with it is, what number did we get up to, Joe? Like 20 million or something? It's a crazy fee, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's reported differently in sort of different presses. Locally here, they're talking 15 plus add-ons up to 20. And I think a lot of why we were such an attractive deal for Borough is apparently the payment structure was a lot of our cash was coming up front. So
there you go.
Because of our ownership, we aren't the side that struggles for cash flow, where they've got Steve Gibson there, who's been a sort of fantastic owner over the years, but it's his money in the club. So when they want deals structured, they can't just pull a lever from a pension fund or a massive investor just to pull the money in. When they've got 10 million to find and it's cash they need to find, they have to find that money. Where whilst we do, it's easier for us to do so. We're looking at a much bigger reserve to do it.
The point I was going to make, George, was if it is a 15 million complex deal with add-ons, you don't just immediately jump to another complicated deal for 15 million pounds with add-ons and do that. It's going to be. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure there's lists and there's A players and B players and different ideas, and maybe we're about to talk about the B player, but it does feel like start from scratch, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think Thursday night, the Caduced rumour came back on pretty full stream. And I think a lot of the viewpoint was, yeah, we need both. And we obviously do need 2 more centre mids in an ideal world. But when you then revisit it in the context of Hackney kind of saying no to us, it does feel like Ashton got back to his house and got on the phone and said, right, let's get Caduce because we need it. And maybe you're right, Ben, like we can only really properly focus on one big deal at a time. There's a lot of things at play. And yeah, I think if Caduce happens, fantastic. But clearly we still need another one. And maybe it is down to list B and C.
And yeah, that's where we're going next, Joe. And I don't know how much more on off this Jens Chaos thing is going to be. Where the hell are we with this now?
But it seemed there was a lot of talk from the Italian press over the weekend. It's almost like Jens Chaos has been sent on this world tour while Napoli try and sort of punt him out anywhere, but he doesn't want to go to these places. He wants to come back to England and he wants to come back to Ipswich. So there's sort of a lot been talking about Besiktas in Turkey, Neom, which is a sort of new city being built in the middle of the desert in Saudi at the moment, where it's like a 5-kilometer city and it's just coming out of nowhere. It's really interesting to look at the sort of stuff if you're involved in construction. Well, I think something like 30% of the world's steel production is currently going just to this one city in the desert. So it is ludicrous. But so they're obviously trying to throw some money at a team because I think they're a 2nd division team in Saudi at the moment as well. So it's not even a Saudi Pro League team. So they're the latest links. But I think the talk today is that there's a verbal agreement being reached. It sounds like it's very close, that one. And I think when we talk about the A and the B deal and the timing of it, I think it was more maybe like Friday afternoon, Saturday morning that it started coming back out, and maybe that was when we knew Hackney wasn't happening once he left the building there, and maybe they were plan A/B or A1, A2, whatever, if they were seen as similar on it. But I think when you look to see what we need in midfield, you've got Matasiwa who's sitting, and then you've got, obviously, if Kajus signs, you've got him who can play in that more forward role. Jack Taylor can play in that more forward role. Cameron Humphreys is probably going to be more for that more forward role. So it feels like anything else in midfield we need to sign. If it's Kajus instead of Hackney or on that side, you're going to need someone who's going to be able to back up Matasiwa, and you maybe go with Matasiwa, one other, Kajus, Taylor, Humphreys, and that's what you go with. Or if you can find one more guy that works in there, and maybe Humphreys at that point, it's him that is sacrificed to go to a Luton or somewhere like that, and see where he ends up. But yeah, there is work to do there. But like I said, I've been really impressed with Matasiwa so far, and he looks really, really sharp and really, really good. But at the moment, I think if you would back him up in the midfield, you'd probably have Finn Barbrook above the others profile-wise as to who would play as a six. And I think he had an excellent season last year, but that was at Sutton United in the National League. And I think they finished like 10th in the National League. And he's looked really good in pre-season, but I don't think someone's going to be going from the National League to where we want to be in one window, effectively, one summer.
Tell me I'm wrong about this, George, but maybe it's like Premier League PTSD or just fresh shiny toy syndrome, but I was really excited about Hackney. I thought that would have been spectacular. And if it's Cayus that we kind of had last year, and okay, it's a different league. Can you see where I'm coming from? Tell me I'm wrong to be down on that. You'd prefer Hackney, right? Wouldn't you? Surely.
Yeah, I do disagree, actually, Ben. It's better the devil you know in this game, I think. And when we were linked with the Mexican Ruiz, I seen so many people say, I'd love him over K. Houston. It's like, you don't know what this guy is like. You got no idea, like he could be a starter, he could be a bench player. We just don't know. So yeah, but Hackney felt to me like if we could have got that over the line, it would have been maybe the statement signing of the whole game changer era when we've had that dip back down, but we're still able to go and get players at that level. It would have been incredible. But yeah, to bring K. Houston, obviously there's slight medical issues, which maybe has scuppered some moves. We don't really know, but if we can get him in and manage his body, he'll be a cheat code. Him and Matasiwa just sounds like a dream combination for that midfield. And then they seem like two that can go again. I don't think we'd have to really address that area much if we do get promoted again.
Yeah. Right. We're going to do questions in just a minute. So get your questions in the chat for Joe and George. Finally, Joe, who is Ivan Azon?
Oh, a Spanish under-21 international who is currently playing for Como, but he's come through the system at Zaragoza, which has mostly been a sort of Segunda Division side in Spain where he's played. He's signed for Como in January, but hasn't kicked a ball for them. I think he was injured for the first half of the spell and then was just an unused sub for the second half. And he's seemingly available again now. Valencia are very close to tying up a loan deal for him, which I think he's really sort of keen for. But I think they're dragging their heels on the deal a little bit, and Ipswich have tried to jump in on this. And I think we've even sort of blown the Valencia deal out of the water financially as a package for sort of the player and the club. And the last talk today, which we've seen on, again, you're looking at these sort of translated tweets from foreign journalists and sort of scraping around to see what is said. And I think it was said that Valencia either sort of need within the next 24 hours need to firm up their interest or firm up the bid and get it agreed, or he's going to go elsewhere because he wants to get a club sorted this week, is what he said. So expect to see him sort of nodding in a late goal at Nighthead at St Andrews on Friday.
I knew he was going to do a Nighthead at St Andrews Park game. Oh, dearie me. We do need a striker or someone in that mould, George, don't we? I'll take Ivan Azon at this point, I think.
Yeah, it's an interesting spot for us because if he came in, do you think it means more likely that Ali will go on and we try and find a perhaps more experienced someone that we know? But if we then sign somebody experienced who can be a proper backup to Hurst, and we're not taking a risk on, then perhaps we feel more comfortable letting Ali stay around. So it's an interesting position. We're clearly going to sign somebody to play up top and to be Hurst back up in the next 2 weeks. But the profile and who that is, I think will have a big bearing on who that third striker becomes.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. I think if we signed Ivan Azon this week, I think you're still looking for that number 2, and then he then probably becomes the number 3 with Ali sort of heading elsewhere, whether sort of permanently or on loan. But I don't think if you went into it with Hurst, Azon, and Al Hamadi, I think you're probably a little bit undercooked in that range, because if anything happens to Hurst, you're really short. Yeah. So I think you're going to be trying to find somebody for that main striker role, somebody who can genuinely compete with George Hurst and will be starting games if Hurst is sort of losing sharpness, losing fitness, out of form. You want somebody who can actually say, we're swapping this week, where I think if you went for Azon, unless he really sort of blows up and comes in, which is always difficult coming from a sort of new league into the Championship in the first season, or Al Hamadi, I don't think either of them are going to be able to put enough pressure on Hurst.
Brilliant stuff, guys. Right, get your questions in and we will round this out for the last quarter hour. We'll get the guys to do as many as possible. We can say a massive thank you to David Bergine, a €10 super sticker. Thank you so much, David. You can, if you like, donate here in the live chat on all our live shows on YouTube. But if you want even more bang for your buck, head over and become a Blue Monday top tier member, like we've seen a couple of people during the show, William and Oscar, signing up as YouTube members. Going to be plugging that this season. Plenty coming starting this week. Right, question time. Then George from Neil, do we go for Downs or Morton now?
Well, it looks like Morton's on his way to France, I think. So we may have missed the boat on that one. But yeah, I mean, we definitely need somebody, don't we? I've been a massive advocate for Downs all summer. Fits the exact profile we need, and is that sort of young, hungry, athletic midfielder that we've not had in the engine room for a little while now. So yeah, I mean, if we can go and get Downs, fantastic. But things have quieted down there, and I feel like it's probably going to be maybe somebody fresh if Hackney doesn't get resurrected.
Joe's from Norman. Will we make a marquee sign-in, 15-20 million, before the end of the transfer window? You've been very hot on this narrative, Joe, that, well, it's got to be the right people. The squad is good, and if target A is staying in Middlesbrough and target B isn't ready, then maybe there won't be. I don't know. What's your take?
Well, there might be a striker in that regard. We might make a central midfielder and a striker marquee signings before the end of the window. I think if the players are there and they're the right players for us, we'll get the deals done. Whether they're seen, people will be amazed at what spending power we've still got in this league, as sort of proven with how close the Hackney deal got to completion.
Colin is asking me about Barbrook, and I'm going to throw that straight to Joe Fairs.
Yeah. Do we keep him in the squad? Well, it's interesting because he's 21 in, I think, November or December, where Cameron Humphreys is 22 in October. So Cameron Humphreys has to be registered as a 25th man in the squad. If he is here, he's got to be registered in that 25, where Finn Barbrook doesn't. Kieran McKenna's always liked to have 27 players around that number for his training squad, the main squad. And unless we sign a couple of under-21 players, you're going to need to name. Finn Barbrook is probably, well, he is the only one who's sort of close to contention for it. So I wouldn't be surprised if he does hang around and has a year like maybe Cameron Humphreys did when we were in the Championship last time, where, yeah, you're going to get minimal minutes, but you are in there training with these guys all week, sort of all season, and really pushing your levels up that way before maybe trying to find a League One or Championship loan next year. So I wouldn't be surprised if in there. I think he's done himself a lot of favours in that regard, and his age is obviously a big thing. If all things were equal with Cameron Humphreys would be the one named to the squad, but they're not equal. He is an under-21 and Cameron Humphreys isn't.
George from Terry, who are you tipping for our top scorer this season?
George Hurst, straight and simple. I think it's going to be his massive breakthrough year.
Question for Ben. How long do you will the 8-second goalkeeper rule last? And should the nightmare skull appear soon? Kids TV fans of the 1980s will have some idea what Mike's talking about there. If the nightmare skull countdown thing's going to appear, then we should keep the 8-second rule for as long as possible. Obviously, it's a stupid, ridiculous rule that never gets enforced and probably should be. But yeah, there are other law changes that we'll do ahead of that. But yeah, that's one of my particular soapboxes. Joe from Ben over on Twitter. McKenna tends to go back for players who have previously targeted. Do you think Ellis Sims could be an option to back up Hurst? He'd quite like the idea, McKenna as well, I think, of that. Right, Frank didn't fancy him and didn't play him. Hold my beer, watch me get 20 goals out of him, yeah?
Yeah, he's a great size, isn't he? But he doesn't seem to play his size. When you watch him, I find him quite a frustrating player to watch when I see him.
He needs the right coach, Joseph.
Yeah, he just doesn't, I don't know, he just doesn't seem to get himself about well enough or do a lot. He's a good finisher when he gets a chance, but yeah.
Did you see Sam Morsey play before he joined Kieran McKenna, by the way?
But I think if there's anyone from that Coventry strike force, I think Haji Wright's probably a better fit for us. But even him, I struggle with at times when I watch him.
Oh, he's really good, Joe. But you ain't getting a United States Player of the Year before a World Cup in the United States for cheap, are you? But there we go. George McBurney rumours gone away. God, that one set the blooming Telegram chat alight, didn't it? In the week, Ollie McBurney.
Yeah, interesting one. I did see Phil at TWTD. He sort of said, as far as I'm aware, he's on a list. And I think that's where the links come from. So quite how strong the rumours were, who knows? Quite how much agents want us to be on lists and in news articles, who knows? Didn't strike me as one that you would see McKenna signing, to be honest. I don't think we tend to dally with players who've had a few...
Sorry to interrupt, mate. Do you not like the sheer Moneyball size of it, that they would look so smug if they took this guy, and he was pretty good aerially with Wilder at Sheffield United, and said, right, we're going to sign you specifically to do this job at this point in games, and we're going to get a chip. Do you know there's some kind of like weird Moneyball
but
challenge on the other end of it?
We don't really seem that Moneyball-y, really. If we were, Broadhead would be on the way to Wrexham by now, I think. But yeah, I mean, I do think as well, you mentioned the sort of coming on at 70 minutes type role, Ben. I think people talk about that as though, we've got her, so you're not going to be number one. But I think with the right sell to a striker, you can say you're going to get 20 minutes every week at the money end of game. So we feel like a really attractive proposition. Yeah, I mean, McBurney, great. He'd come in. He knows the league. He maybe would fit that number 2 role that we were talking about previously. But yeah, it just seems, I don't know, it seems off to me. I can't see it happening.
Big thank you to Andy, who's joined us over on Blue Monday Top Tier. You can join as a member during the show, apparently, and lots of people are. We're really grateful. I'm going to double these up, Joe. Neil, what to make of our goalkeeper situation? Michael is going to throw the Muric grenade in, as it gets thrown in each and every week. If Muric would fit, who would you start at Birmingham? Palmer's going to play at Birmingham, Joe.
Yeah, Palmer's going to play. Muric is fit, but Palmer is going to play. Christian Walton's going to be number 2. I guess David Button's going to be number 3. But we've got to find some solutions for Arrow Muric. We've got to find a solution for Kieran Slicker. I'd say that SPL started, League 1 has started, League 2 has started, and Kieran Slicker is still here. And so I guess the places where you'd have expected him to go to be a number 1, all those places are gone. And he's been available this whole time. So that's sort of an interesting one, I think, in his regard. How damaging was that Scotland debut for his chances of getting a move this year? But I don't know. He needs something, and I think Arrow Muric will need something as well. And I think we'll go with the other 3.
Colin, do you think Johnson could be pushed into midfield as an option, George? He might have to be if we're going to start the season with mentally not prepared Amari Hutchinson and an injured Jaden Philogene.
Yeah, I mean, that right-hand side role, he could easily reprise that, couldn't he, from last season? I think he seems like a definite option. I don't know if Collins may be hinting at central midfield as well.
He had played there a couple of times for West Ham.
I can see that, yeah.
Yeah, we have seen that in pre-season with Clark going in there, and I think Kipray played there at one point, but that feels to me...
Do you remember when Warnock used to put Sol Bamba in there? It's just like, get him in there, get the big guy in there. Tremendous.
Yeah, like I've seen talk. I could see Wolfie at CDM, but I think people massively underestimate or underestimate how difficult it is physically to go from centre half to centre mid. So no, I don't think we'll see any makeshift options in centre mid. We'll be buying players for there.
Joe from David, without adding any more to our squad, where do you think we'll finish? I assume David means that other people will still be signing players while we're allowed to sign nobody.
Somewhere in the top one.
All right, Cluffy. Tremendous stuff. Toffee Crisp, what rule change would you put through given the chance? They just want me to go off on my rants here. So the problem I have is that denial of an obvious goal scoring opportunity is on the one hand slightly too harsh on occasions, and these imbeciles that stop counterattacks just by yanking someone's shirt back, that doesn't seem harsh enough. So we need to close the gap between denial of obvious goal scoring opportunity as a red card and stopping a counterattack, which sometimes seems a worse foul than something that gets red carded for. Rant. But I don't want to set Joe off because we'll have another row about VAR and IFAB, and we're on talking terms at the moment, Joe, aren't we?
Yeah, get rid of transfer windows. Just go back to last Thursday in March, where you used to just look on teletext, see what deals had gone through on that day.
Martin, right, last one here then, George. We have previously chased players over multiple windows. Hurst Villaging. What are the chances of Hackney arriving in January with 10 points clear? He's being sarcastic at the end with the 10. Maybe he's not with the 10 points clear. You don't see big deals go in January, do you? I think a young English midfielder for 15 million quid happens in August, or it doesn't happen.
Yeah, I would be surprised. But then if we are looking like we're almost, in the real hunt for automatics, then we'll go and buy in January for the Premier League. You would have thought, if the right deal arrives, and if Middlesbrough are still keen to sell, then it could happen.
Where are they then? Are they like 14th in January or something?
Yeah,
with Hanson Rob.
I don't have much hope for Edwards up there, if I'm honest. But we'll see. I mean, like Joe always says, if the right deal is available for the club, they'll get it done at whatever point.
I could see that with Philogene in this January, didn't it? We were sort of almost certainly down by the time he came in, and we still paid 20 million for him in January.
Let's do one more. Joe, does Wolfie stay or go?
He's got 2 years left of his contract, and we talked about Cameron Humphreys earlier, but there are some sort of squad rules, which means we need to keep at least one of them around, because in your 25-man squad, you have to name a homegrown academy player, and the only ones we've got who sort of fit into that are, Elkin Baggett, Cameron Humphreys, and Luke Wolfenden. If one of them isn't named in our 25-man squad, it means that on our subs bench, we have to name at least one sort of academy player. So generally, it means if we can't name a Tom Taylor or Finn Barber on the bench, we can then only go with 8 subs. So it's really, really important that one of those 3 gets named into that 25. And Luke Wolfenden's still miles clear of the other 2, isn't he? I don't think you'd want to be naming Elkin Baggett in there and having lost Luke Wolfenden, or naming Cameron Humphreys in there. So I think I think he will stay. Signed a new 2-year deal. So we've got it here. I'd imagine he's probably not overly happy with the position he's in, but no, I don't think you can sign a contract and say, I thought our future captain was going to get sold and Darren O'Shea hasn't been sold, and so I'm annoyed because I thought he was going to be. I think you sort of made your bed a little bit in that regard, and you just got to try and fight and get yourself back in the team, or hope for an injury or whatever it is. But he's been used at right back a lot in this pre-season, including again yesterday, which I'd imagine isn't really suiting him at the moment.
There we go. Thank you, guys. Thank you for all of your questions there in the chat. And we're normally, it feels a bit of a weird tone, this one today. We're normally kind of, you go into that week before the season, super excitement, but there's very much a sense of lack of completion of pre-season. But we're going in. We have to go in. And as we say, we're launching Blue Monday Top Tier. Thank you to all the wonderful people who've signed up during the show here. You can do that via the YouTube membership facility there. Craig and Dave are going to be along with Rewind tomorrow. Joe and Craig are going to be here midweek talking about a marquee signing. And no, we're not. They're not going to be here midweek.
Craig is here, but I'm not.
Joe has just broken that. There will be no marquee signing this week. There'll also be no Richard or Seb. It's going to be me and Mikey on the preview show And then George and Henry are going to be on Top Tier with the predictions and preview on Friday. And we've got blogs coming on Saturday and Sunday. Analytics as well. Go and get signed up to Blue Monday Top Tier. George, did you enjoy your debut?
I did very much. Thank you for helping me through, boys.
Oh, there you go. I'm like Muta Siwa helping Jack Taylor through yesterday. This is my role. I'll just run around behind you and make it safe. Joe, you excited now, or are you still vexatious about transfers not happening?
No, I'm really looking forward to the season start, and I think, I say we spoke about it briefly in the green room before, but I think people are so hyper focused on Ipswich because they're Ipswich fans, they don't realise what the Championship is like at this stage, and this is life as a relegated club. We've hit a speed bump on our journey, sort of up the leagues, and now we're in a position where we've got a lot of players that probably want to leave, a lot of clubs that want to sign them, a lot of work that we've got to do. This is just life as a relegated club, but you look at our squad on September the 2nd, and it's going to be streets ahead of sort of 90% of the league, isn't it?
Go on, Joe. There we go. Get ready, everybody. The EFL Championship is upon us. I say this every time. You're itching for it to get going. In about 2 seconds' time, we're going to be talking about Easter and the running. So drink it in. Saturday, Tuesday, Ipswich Town. Promotion favourites. Let's not forget, we'll be across it each and every week here on Blue Monday and Ipswich Town podcast. Let's do this.